Today, it's a grim rainy day here, so I'm delighted that we're going to lighten it up and talk about happiness. I'm joined by the fabulous Tara Chatzakis, who is a life happiness and law of attraction coach.
It also drains your energy, not just being tired, because you're giving so much of your emotional energy, you're giving it to that. So when you go to the next part, which is your business side, their families' lives or their colleagues' lives or their friends' lives, because they are different people. When they're not sad anymore, when they're happy, it affects everybody.
We're diving into some important matters of the mind, body and soul and how to leverage your power through increasing energy and happiness. Can't wait. Welcome to the Leverage Business Podcast, where we believe business success is about working smarter, not harder. Leveraging your time and expertise in ways that fit the digital age you and your clients live in today. I'm your host, Jay Allison, author of Leverage Consulting in the Digital Age and founder of the iSuccess Business Academy. And every week I'll be sharing insights into how you can apply the power of leverage to grow your consulting, coaching, or other expert services business and create true freedom and independent success with mindset, marketing, and money model breakthroughs. Because when you get leveraged, the sky's the limit. Let's go for it. Hey, great you joined me here today. I'm so excited about this month's guest expert, the fabulous Tara Chatzakis, who's a life happiness and law of attraction coach and host of a really amazing podcast show called Happy, Inspired, Motivated, which I'm enjoying so much. Today, it's a grim rainy day here, so I'm delighted that we're going to lighten it up and talk about happiness. I mean, let's face it, no one can deny 2020 is a memorable year, not just COVID. And as Tara points out in one of her podcast episodes, this is a year many people have seriously reevaluated their lives and are discovering what is actually most important to them. I'm really looking forward to getting into this subject because how we manage our mindset and our sense of joy and happiness, whether in terms of building a business or in life more generally, is so critical to our well-being, our sense of fulfilment. And that's a big part of what success in business is surely about, right? I'm sure we're going to benefit from Tara's insights on this today. And it's a real pleasure to have her on the show. So welcome, Tara, and welcome to the Leverage Business Podcast. It's so great to have you on as a guest. How are you?
Hi, Jay. I'm great. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited to be on your show today.
Fabulous. So, Tara, you're a life happiness and law of attraction coach. What a fantastic job. Now, I know you sent me your bio, but tell me in your own words what you do and why that's important in the busy and confusing and frustrating world we live in today.
Yeah, sure. So I'm life happiness. So I'm all about people creating a happier life. And I also use law of attraction, which is working with different energies and attracting different things into your life. So basically people work with me because they may want different things. It could be that they're wanting loving, healthy relationships. Perhaps they want financial wealth and career success, or just life happiness to make things easier. And a bit like with you leveraging business, I sort of help them with their leveraging their time to create a sustainable way to find a happy and fulfilled life.
And obviously the one leads to the other, because I think when you're happy in life, it permeates everything else that you do, including how you think about and run your business. So I would definitely like to focus first on the links between mindset and success and how you see that, and then dive more into the energy healing side, those sort of things that really, the action points that you can take to benefit your business. That sound like a plan?
Yep, sounds perfect to me. Yep.
Cool. Let's first sort of take the first step back and think, how did you get into this whole area of work?
Okay, well, it started with, for me, around about 2009. I was living in Greece and I was in a very unhappy marriage. And one day I came off the computer and I was in the house on my own. My children were at my parents' house and I just started sobbing my heart out. I was so upset. I was so distraught because somebody had asked me, when I'd said I wasn't happy, somebody had asked me, what are you going to do about it? And I just suddenly realized, actually, it's completely, I've allowed this to happen and it's my choice if I don't want to be here anymore. and I didn't know what to do with myself. So I was sobbing, and I was stood in the kitchen, and I had this, I don't know how to explain it. It was like a massive hug. It's like somebody just wrapped their arms around me really tightly and squeezed me, and I felt really safe,
Wow.
secure, and I knew that I was going to be all right. Now, there was nobody there, so that was basically my hug from the universe. And from that moment on, it just changed my life completely. So I started learning more about the universe, about the energies, because we're surrounded all the time by energy. Even like the air around us is some form of energy. It's just not manifested into something. So it was like all of those things, and I just became really involved in it and started learning more. And then I started teaching what I'd learned. People came to me because they felt better when they'd been with me and they'd spoken with me, and I gave them more happiness. They felt happier in their lives, and they had strategies and techniques that they could implement in their lives to create more happiness. So I was doing that for a while, and then I started learning more about neurokinetic energy and different things like that, and diving into the mind, putting that all together, and also training to be a life coach too. And that's just what's led me here today. So that's my story.
So you bring it all together, and imagine that when you're talking to clients that you don't just throw a whole load of strategies at them. It's very much a pick and mix, sort of what would help you. Particularly, I think, I'll come back to this later, is about those action steps. Because often we're so busy sort of saying, what do I do? What do I have to do? How can I fix this? And we want tangible steps. So it's really good to sort of hear that, because I think people think, oh, you've just got to do some affirmations and a bit of meditation. But actually, there's some very structured ways.
Yeah, it's not about doing things. It's about being. We're human beings. Yeah. We're supposed to be, not do.
I've heard that a lot, yeah.
Yeah, if we're doing things, we're too busy doing things, and we're too obsessed with, oh, well, I have to do my affirmations this morning. Oh, my goodness, it's 10 o'clock, I haven't done them yet. I have to do this. I have to meditate for so long, and all of these things, and they create more overwhelm.
Yeah.
And they have the opposite effect of what you're trying to achieve. It's more about being in the flow, being in alignment, being true to yourself, and following what your path is. And that's when the flow becomes much easier. That's when you don't have to consciously think, oh my goodness, I have to be doing this.
So what's the first step then, if somebody wanted to kind of get in this zone of calm the mind, energize the body, tap into the spirit? I know that's a sort of a tagline that you've used.
Yeah.
What's the first step for them? What would you say to start with?
I would say, first of all, to definitely step back and just assess where you are right now. So I do like 8 steps. It's like a framework that I work through. And the very first step is looking at exactly where you are and being really realistic about it.
Yeah.
So you can say, whatever your job is or your relationship status is or whichever, having a look at all of those things and actually seeing how you feel about them.
Yeah.
It always comes down to the feeling that success will give you. It's not, nobody wants to sit there with £1 million in their hands. That doesn't mean anything. It's the feeling that they'll get from that. It's the feeling of achievement, or perhaps the feeling that they can give back to society. So it's all about where you are and how you're feeling about where you are. And if that feeling's not good, then we have to look at what is going to make you feel better, what's going to make you feel good, and want you to get out of bed in the morning and really have a smile on your face and be more sincere in your life to yourself.
Well, I've in the last sort of couple of years, I've spent quite a bit of time on the whole kind of leaning back thing and finding out who I am again. Yeah. So that came up in one of your episodes, which I thought we'd dive into today as well. So is that first step about kind of looking at the big picture? Because when you're looking at business improvement, often the focus is on the business and not on yourself as the business leader, as the business owner, and looking at how the whole thing feels. And I very much resonate with that, because I'm all about work-life balance and leaning in when you're being super productive, as I've been lately. I've been like completely head down, really working like 12 hours, 14 hours a day, but it's not sustainable. So it's thinking about, well, how much balance have you got? And so I like the fact that you're saying the first step is awareness. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. So like you're saying about people wanting to progress in their business, the reason behind that is not so that they can sit there and say, oh, I have a great business. It's the feeling of achievement. It's the feeling of, for example, in a service business, the feeling of how you've helped other people, what impact you've made on people's lives. If you've served them, if you're a restaurant, the kind of happiness you can give people through your food, through your interaction with them, that is all the success. So the feeling that you get from the success, not the actual, it's not like a plaque on the wall. It's nothing, it's not separate from you, it's in you.
Yeah.
And even if you could have a great business, but if your heart's not in it and you don't feel in love with it, you're not going to get the success that you're looking for.
Yeah, very much so. And I think when we talk about business and business growth, the metrics are often very quantitative, aren't they? You know, how much money did you make? How many clients have you got? And I think what I try to do, certainly in my book, Leveraged Consulting, is to look at what are the indicators of success for you. And I like that, the sense of the feeling that you get and the impact that you're having. And those things need to factor in, because you could have, a 7-figure business, but it's not giving you that kind of sense of fulfillment, then that's something to work on.
Yeah. And quite often, if you're not being true to yourself and it's not the business that would be perfect for you and your energy, quite often people get to those 6-7-figure businesses and then they sabotage it all and they lose it all because it's not sustainable. Like I say, they can't keep going doing something that they're really not in love with.
And I think that's why you talk, I know you help women in particular, but I think sometimes even for men, we get into a midlife crisis kind of situation. And often we don't know why we're feeling that way. And it is that loss of alignment, isn't it? Because most of our early career, we're pushing for those accolades, for those achievements, for those sort of, if you like, harder metrics of success.
Yeah.
And then, we could be financially successful or still struggling, but something isn't right. Something just, and all of a sudden, I mean, like you said, in the kitchen, you just start sobbing because you just realize that something isn't right. And I've been there too. I've probably ignored it, denied it, worked around it. I mean, we've done all of these things, but it's there. And I spent a lot of time in that searching, in that seeking mode to find my purpose back. And I know that in one of your episodes in your podcast, you talk about becoming whole again. And that really resonated with me. That really jumped out, because I think that's a really good starting point. But how do you do that? How do you get into all of that? I talk to some of my mentors that I have this big bucket of spaghetti, not only my business ideas, but all the stuff that's going on in my head. And rather than the to-do list, it's that can feel overwhelming. So how do you help people with that? What's the best strategies and techniques for starting to untangle this bucket of spaghetti that people often have?
I think a lot of people have, especially this year, have actually managed to get through their spaghetti because people have had so much time and so much fear drummed into them that they've had the time to step back and actually reassess, so they can look at the situation now and understand that it's not making them happy, that it wasn't everything that they had going on that was making them happy. It was the little things like meeting your friends or going for a coffee or popping in to see your mum, something like that. They're the little things that make a big difference. And this year, with people not being able to do that, people have stepped back and had a lot of change of hearts, and people are reassessing things.
Yeah.
So if you've got your bucket of spaghetti, you just need to get it all out onto the table, quite honestly, and take a look at what exactly each of those spaghetti strands is, and is that really important? Do you really need this strand? Does it make you happy? No, well, let's throw that one away then. What about the next strand? Is this something that I really want to work towards? Or is this something that's going to make a difference in my life or other people's lives? So we put all these things in the bucket, all these ideas. I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to achieve the other. And we do get a lot of things going on. But when you look at them realistically, they're not necessarily things that are going to achieve inner peace, calmness, or happiness for you. So basically, like I say, this year's made people throw quite a lot of that spaghetti out. So that's good.
Yeah. And I think the sort of the analogy of drawing out the strands, I mean, one of the big questions for me at my time of bucket of spaghetti, I'd kind of forgotten what actually makes me happy.
Yes, that's really important. Yeah.
You know, people say, oh, do what makes you happy. And I'm like, oh, yeah, but I don't know anymore. You know, I'm so busy doing the doing.
Yeah. You're not being anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's that. A lot of people have to go through that. And it's, I mean, I go through it as well. It's not just, you know, I'm not perfect. Sometimes I sit and I think to myself, what makes me happy? And I'm like, I don't know. And it does make you reassess, and you think one way of doing it is to sort of break things down so you can look at each area of your life and say, well, does that make me happy?
Yeah.
It's not just one thing that makes you happy. It's lots of different things.
Yeah. Do you use those sort of circles of life, you know, in terms of relationships, love, career?
Yes. Yeah, I have that
money.
in my in one of my journals. We have like a vision board, but it's not quite. So you write down, you know, what your vision for your spirituality is, or your relationships, or your career, so you can see what kind of things you want in your life, and then you can just get rid of the other fluff, because that is actually taking time away from what you need to be achieving.
Yeah. And I remember as well a book I read years ago. I don't know whether it was when I was having an early midlife crisis. I think it was John Gray, How to Get What You Want and Want What You Get, or something like that. He talked about having 10 love tanks. And I mean, because often we talk about our energy kind of being drained, but sometimes we don't know why it's drained or what's draining it. And sometimes it's because some people or some activities or your job or your boss or whatever is draining you in one particular love tank starts to go down. And it's others because, say, you're not getting out and visiting friends, or you're not getting out and going for a walk. These are the things that fill up my tanks. And so sometimes having that sense of these 10 love tanks makes you realize where you need to refill and where actually some of them are overflowing and don't need to be. So that's about leveraging your time to get everything in balance. So I just think that's a very similar kind of principle, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
How to break it all down and take those strands out.
Yeah, get rid of the ones that you don't need.
Yeah.
It's like in business, for example, yours is leveraging time in business. It's like, instead of trying to do everything, you get the VA to do some admin for you. That you don't need that on your plate. It doesn't make you happy. You're not good at that. So instead of wasting your energy trying to do it, you do what you're good at, and somebody else can take care of that. There's things that you do that you might be quite good at, but you don't actually, it doesn't give you enough satisfaction, enough happiness to warrant actually you doing it.
It's all about balance, isn't it? Yeah, because some of those things, actually, I feel quite a sense of accomplishment when I've gone through some really tedious tasks, and, you know, kind of just, in a way, it's because you don't have to think too hard. So for me, it's quite relaxing. It's a bit like doing a puzzle. There's no point to it at all, except, I mean, I do a lot of puzzles on a weekend. I love it, especially if it's raining and I can't get out for a walk. And you think at the end of it, you built this puzzle, and then you've got to screw it all up and put it back in the box. And what was the point of that? But the whole process, the kind of methodical, it's a somewhat of a challenge. Your mind can drift because you're focused on a task which is quite easy to do. It's quite, you can kind of get lost in it. You can lose hours in it. So I think there's certainly something to be said for not always doing the delegation thing, but you have to know when it's helping and when it's hindering. So I think that's the key takeaway I get from that. Yeah. And particularly, as you said earlier, about things that you're not very good at, don't do them at all. Make sure you get someone else to do them.
In their lives, they're doing things that they're not good at, or things that are taking time away from them just even relaxing. You know, things like
time with family.
You have to go to the supermarket. Well, get it delivered.
Yeah.
And go home and just relax, instead of having to be stressed about getting in the traffic and getting through the supermarket and queuing at the till and all that kind of stuff.
I know. experienced that. I mean, it's like, why would you ever go to the supermarket again?
Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, my mum says, "Well, I like to go and touch things and pick it up." I said, "Get over it, just you're going to lose. Maybe you get a bad avocado one time, but hey."
Well, yeah, I mean, and some people really enjoy it, and they find that relaxing. See, they find browsing in the store relaxing.
Yeah,
and that's their puzzle for them, isn't it? So it's yeah.
You mentioned on one of your episodes about connecting with people. So I mean, that is one point to go out to the supermarket. Is sometimes, certainly in the way things have been with lockdown and social restrictions, sometimes it's just great to get out and be amongst people. So that would be my only reason for going around the supermarket. But the whole connecting with, you said connecting is key. Can you say a little bit more about that in terms of how it helps your mental well-being?
Yeah, so it's mental well-being, obviously, because you're interacting with other people, because humans, we crave interaction, even people who are shy. But when we connect with people, it's also on an energetic level. So you've got the energy in your body, which is your soul, your spiritual energy. And obviously that radiates out around you. A lot of people would call that, for example, their aura. Mm-hmm. And other people obviously have the same. And when you come into contact with somebody, your auras touch, even if you don't. And they connect through their energy. And if it's somebody with a really high energetic vibration, they can raise you up, and they can, when you walk into a room and there's two people in there and they've been arguing, but you didn't know. When you walk in, you can feel that energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
You could cut it with a knife, and that's exactly the same thing. If you go into a room and people are really happy, you can feel that too, and you get swept up in it.
You can change your sort of energy state in an instant, really. I still recall, I was quite young at the time. I was in a grumpy mood, and it happens a lot more now in midlife. But I was in a grumpy mood that day, and I went out the door, and I held the door open, because that's just a normal thing that I would do for someone coming in. And they said, "Thank you." And I was just like, it just totally uplifted me. And in an instant, my mood was completely changed. I just thought, oh, that's so, that's just pleasant. It's just pleasant. Yeah. Because so many people walk around sort of grumpy and road rage and all the rest of it.
They do.
And so you choose to have a different state of mind. And it is a bit of brain training in a way, would you say?
Yes, definitely. I mean, there are different ways to sort of raise your energetic vibration, but you can start by noticing, for example, when you're feeling sad, depressed, or lonely, or whichever, a low energy, you can see in yourself how you hold your body, for example. So your head would go down and your shoulders would slump a little bit, and you'd talk quieter and slower, and you wouldn't be very enthusiastic. But you can purposefully switch it, and get yourself sat up straight, shoulders back, head up, and you can feel the energy, and you can talk faster and be more energetic, and you can just switch that really quickly. And a good thing that I learned from Tony Robbins is to anchor those states.
Okay.
So you can have, for example, if you're going into a meeting, or you just come out of a meeting, for example, and you're feeling quite, oh, God, that was a bit heavy. You can either carry that low energy with you all day, which would have an impact on the rest of your day, or you can switch the state. And for anchoring, for example, it can be something like clicking your fingers really quickly, or squeezing your wrist, or doing something to yourself.
As a reminder?
Yeah, so you practice, first of all, getting yourself into an energized state and doing this thing like squeezing your wrist. Energized state, squeeze your wrist. Energized state, squeeze your wrist. And doing that, and it gets ingrained in your mind, so that it comes to the point that when you could be walking down the street and not feeling too great, and you just squeeze your wrist, and it immediately pops your body back into that energized state. So it's about anchoring the state that you want to be in.
Yeah, I definitely think that it's a kind of a shaking your body up, isn't it? I think it's much easier in a way to get a handle on some of the things you've just been saying you can do. I mean, for example, I'm sitting down now with, podcasting, but actually if I wanted to raise my energy state, and in fact, if I'm lecturing, I'm speaking on stage sort of thing, and then I'm standing up and immediately my energy is kind of higher. So that's an obvious one that everybody would recognize. So why not sort of find your thing, whether it's, something like this or something clicking or something more subtle. It's something to me, because I think a lot of this for some sort of more hard-nosed business owners who I work with, they would say, that mindset is very fluffy. And I suppose that there's a limit to where I go with the whole chakras and energy and that, but it's putting some terminology really over things that we're aware of every day. Yeah.
There is science behind it. For example, when you're happy and you're excited, you have the serotonin that chemical your body releases. And that goes into the cell and it kind of makes the cell happy.
Well, I did my PhD on 5-HT, which is serotonin, or the precursor to serotonin.
There you go. That it physically changes
physiology.
Physiology.
And
that is a scientific thing. It's not fluff.
No, exactly. I mean, that's why I have to be careful with the way that I sort of think about some of this stuff, because, the more I've gone into it, the more I've realized actually this is super important. But the thing that I think people struggle with, even past the concept of it, if you can get them past the fluff in their mind, is how do I kind of tap into this whole area of mindset and link it to success? So I think what we started to pull on here is there's some starting points, some strategies. And I think there's a lot more of what you do in terms of this on your website. Is that correct? And in some of the freebies that you've got for people?
Yeah, I do have a few things like a manifesting journal and a daily life journal that people can use. They're free on my website that people can use to sort of ease themselves into it. Obviously, when I work with clients one-to-one, it goes much more in depth, and obviously it's tailored for them. But I would say one thing that, for example, we've got this prehistoric brain that's been for the last 2,000 years that used to keep us safe because its job was to look for dangers.
Yeah.
And we have to remember that its job hasn't actually changed. So we're always looking for what's going to go wrong. What's going to go wrong? Is that bus going to hit me? I won't walk out into the road. Is this business client going to pull out on a deal? You're always looking for the what could possibly go drastically wrong. And to change your physiology and your mindset, we have to shift that into what could actually go right.
Yeah.
Because when you're focusing on what can go wrong, things are going to go wrong.
A lot of my consulting work is around risk assessment and strategic planning. And part of that is the kind of looking at the opportunities and threats, looking at strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats. And often you see a lot of big corporate organizations, they're very risk averse. And they put a lot of processes and structures in place to avoid risk and to manage quality and some of those things. And yet, when you look at their customer engagement strategies and the things that are going, looking for the things that are going right, there's a lot less attention paid to it. So even in the business side of things, we're looking for the bad, we're always looking for the dangers.
Yeah. We're scared, so we're looking for what could go wrong.
Yeah. As individuals, I think we walk around with a lot of kind of fear and trepidation. And going back to physiology, I think what I hear you saying as well is that it kind of builds up in your body.
Oh yes, don't get me started on that. I like to do the analogy of if you hadn't been to the toilet for a week, you'd take a laxative. Yet you allow your body to hold built up emotion and stress and fear and anxiety for so much longer, and then you wonder why you feel rubbish.
It's because you can't put your finger on it quite the same way. Not that you'd want to put your finger on the other, but
no. It's all build up of toxins in your body, and then your body has a reaction to that. And if it builds up for long enough, that's when people can create dis-ease in their body because they're not letting it out. You've got to let that shit out, put it that way.
No, absolutely. And I think it's not just the mental shit, so to speak, but it's also what you put into your body in terms of your food and your diet.
Yeah.
And that's certainly the kind of burnout that I had a couple of years ago. my health just declined, and I didn't know why or what. It was part of the whole midlife crisis, I suppose. And I didn't know where to start. Was it in my diet? Was it in my psychology? Or, and I think actually it's a build-up of all of those things. Yeah. And you have to sort of think, well, I'll try fixing this bit first, and then I'll try improving that bit. And so gradually, with kind of diet and supplements and more mental well-being kind of pursuits, like going out for walks, being with friends, those things we've just talked about, I had some really big, immediate, quick wins, if you like, in terms of how I felt, and my energy levels just increased almost back to normal. And it's just like it's like the absence of pain is so it's super noticeable. And it makes you realize that you'd actually been carrying this stuff around for quite some time. So
it's got to be holistic, hasn't it? It's got to be all things considered.
Yeah.
Not just one aspect, is it?
No, and I think that's where the bucket of spaghetti comes in some ways, is once you know that you've got this bucket of spaghetti, sometimes it feels huge, and you're not sure where to start with it all, because there are these many facets. And I think what I like about the way that you take people through a coaching process is the kind of 8 steps, is because you can't do it in layers. I don't know how you would sort of get a handle on it. And I think that wheel we talked about earlier is the first step, to think about, well, how is this shit, so to speak? Yeah. How is this confusion, this overwhelm, and this unhappiness showing up in your life? And just maybe start there. What's your view?
Yeah, definitely. You've got to understand what you don't want anymore. And that starts with looking at where you are.
Yeah.
So when you know where you are in your career or your finances or your relationships or your health, when you realize where you are, then you can understand what you need to move away from.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people just go through the life and like you said, they don't realize that they're building all this stuff up until they have, a huge breakdown sort of period and everything's crashing down. But if you can avoid that, that's so much better, because you can start looking immediately at what's going on, what's not working, why it's not working, how it makes you feel, how you want to feel, and what the difference is from where you are, how you're feeling now. You could be a 2, but you want to be a 10.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to see what the difference is, and then we're working to how you're going to get there.
Yeah, I think it's the working to how you're going to get from 2 to 10, or even 2 to 6 would be a good first step. So my business concept and the leverage business as a podcast theme is all about creating leverage in your business for greater freedom, success, and work-life balance. But it really isn't just the mechanics of business, as I often say. It's about mindset, marketing, and money. Getting the business model right, so that you're actually working in a zone and in a way that fits with what makes you happy. I mean, it sounds to me that there's a process here, some kind of success pathway. It's not one jump. So definitely, if you want to find out more about this, do you do like a free session with people to sort of help them get into to know whether this is something that would help them?
I do a free 30-minute call to see whether coaching is a good fit for them, and also to see if I can help them, because maybe I can't. I'm not Superwoman by any means. But it's good to understand what kind of things you could be doing and how coaching possibly could help you. Because without actually looking at it, I had a call the other day and the lady said, to be honest, I don't know what you do.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Can you help? Can you explain it to me? And I said, well, yeah, I can tell you what kind of things that have worked for me and how I work with my clients. And then you can see whether or not it's the right fit for you. And I think when you were talking about the success pathway, I think one thing that we tend to do is, because we want immediate results. We're just a culture of immediate gratification, aren't we? If the internet is whirring round for a second, oh my God, what's wrong with you? You want the browser to open up straight away. You want everything immediately.
Yeah.
And you miss the steps. So, if you can see where you are right now, and you can establish where you want to go, and we sort of work through the steps gradually.
What's holding you back?
Yeah, what's holding you back, and you can celebrate at each milestone. You can set yourself, I'm going to give myself 10 minutes a day to relax, which I never had before, for example. And just incorporating that will help you feel better. Yeah. And when you're doing that consistently, you can go, oh my God, I'm actually making progress, and celebrate yourself for what you've achieved. And a lot of people don't. They just think, well, I haven't got complete freedom, and I haven't got complete higher energy yet. Well, no, but you've progressed from where you were. But if you didn't know where you were, you can't see how you've progressed.
I mean, it's quite interesting because, again, a lot of what you talk about on your podcast is about setting a goal and knowing why you're doing some of this, and looking for what I'm always about metrics, but in a way, looking for how will you know when you're getting there? And it's about celebrating the little wins. So if you're looking to lose a couple of stone in weight, then what would a little win be? Would be to lose 2 pounds in the first week. I mean, just to find that you can do it. So if you're looking to start a business or grow your business, just getting, 1 new client, getting 3 new clients.
Yeah, exactly.
That those kind of things is like those stepping stones, rather than I want to earn £1 million.
Yeah, well, that could be the end goal, but realistically,
exactly.
I mean, it could happen overnight, but realistically, in most cases, it doesn't.
Yeah, well, we talk a lot about setting the goal and then working backwards. Reverse engineering. So, what do you need to do to get from A to B to C to Z, if you like, the Z as that last goal? So, I mean, you pulling a few things out of your podcast that came out to me was about nailing your why. So that's certainly something that I do a lot of with my coaching, because I've been through it myself. And I think the whole losing your mojo, losing your sense of identity almost, especially as you reach that midlife we talked about before, it's really an incredibly overwhelming experience.
Yeah.
When I've kind of had business coaches in the past, they're at a complete loss to deal with that side of things, to be fair. It might just be that those particular coaches, but it's like, go get some therapy. And I'm thinking, well, thank you. And they might be right. But in a sense, this is where the two worlds meet, isn't it? Is that you are your business. So you have to start with you, and you start with your why. So I think that's very critical. So it definitely sounds to me that it's a stumbling block for a lot of people, and a cause of unhappiness is not really being aligned with their real sort of calling, if you like, and that we spend such a long time trying to find our big reason why, and sometimes it's actually staring us in the face.
It's usually the thing that you're trying your hardest not to do.
Yeah.
Which sounds crazy, but the thing that you should be doing is the thing that you're like, well, no, I'm not going to do that because that will never work, or that's too many people doing that, or people will laugh at me, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do the thing that everyone else says I should be doing.
Yeah,
it's a safe option.
Yeah,
but that's the unsafe option is usually the thing that you actually is best for you. It's your purpose.
Yeah, I think, and that comes into being with the second thing that came out at me from I think one of your episodes aligns very well with one of mine, which was about sustainable success, and that was how you deal with setbacks or new challenges, in fact, as we've had many of this year. So Tara, how are you noticing this kind of shift in terms of the COVID year, as we might put it, in terms of what clients are bringing to the table when they approach you for coaching? Has it changed?
Yes. To say this, please don't take this the wrong way, but I think COVID has actually been quite a good thing in many respects. I know that sounds a bit of a weird, don't get me wrong, I know people have been suffering.
You have to see the positives.
They're really seriously ill. But a lot of people have, like I said before, they've reflected on things. And they're at that point now and they're like, well, I'm not going to do what doesn't work for me anymore. I want to be happy. That's the main goal. And what I was doing before, I thought was making me happy, but actually, when I'm thinking about it now, it's not. So it's been quite a good eye-opener, people having this like huge time out from what they normally would do to reassess everything. So people are coming more with, well, I want to achieve something different now, or I want to pivot and make a different life choice, or relationships are more important to me now, but I don't know how to get back to the love that we had when we first started type of thing, because we've drifted apart so much. We've been thrown together now and things aren't looking too good because we're not used to being together anymore. So that's another thing. Personal relationships, it's not always about the career, but it could be, well, I've been working up the corporate ladder for the past 20, 30 years. And now actually I'm thinking I wouldn't mind going on in a cafe. It's making huge changes, and people aren't as quick to label themselves, I don't think, anymore. So they're not saying I'm depressed or I'm not good at relationships or things like that. They're understanding that because of the situation that their lives have normally taken and the stresses and the strains and the franticness of it all, that they've lost the connection that they used to have. They've lost how to relax and engage, and they want to know how to do that again.
It sounds to me as well that people are deciding not to stay in their comfort zone, or they've kind of had this forced ejection from their comfort zone.
Sure, they've realised actually it's about time I got my shit together and did something.
Yeah. And it's sort of like seeing it as an opportunity, not an obstacle. It's one of the chapters in my book, because that's how I ended up in business for myself 13 odd years ago now, and I've never looked back. Is to see.
It was scary though, wasn't it?
Well, it wasn't. That's a whole nother story. But let me ask you, in terms of your own business and running your own business, what are the 3 most important ways that you've leveraged some of this mindset capability in your own business?
I would say being true to myself. So definitely working from the aspect of what my calling is. So working with your energy and law of attraction, all these kind of things. The life coaching is great, but I have that element as well. And some people shy away from that. And I did for quite a while.
Yeah,
because it's woo-woo, isn't it? Yeah. People don't like it. But actually stepping into it and acknowledging and saying, well, this is me. Mm-hmm. This is how I work best. That was great, because it just took my business to a different level, because then I was really true to myself and I wasn't trying to be somebody else. I wasn't pretending to be a different kind of person.
A different kind of coach. Yeah. I mean, it's very liberating, isn't it? When you step into your zone, if you like. So, yeah.
Exactly.
What else?
Not being afraid to show up and be visible.
Yeah.
Because that's a big thing for me. I'm not a shy person, but I don't like shouting about myself, if that makes sense. I'm quite happy to be on the dance floor in the center of attention then, but when somebody's asking me about myself, I'm quite, I'm very modest, and I don't like saying I'm good at something, but then you have to do that in business.
And I think it's a very British thing as well, to be fair, that we sort of don't blow our own trumpets enough, and you need to do. And certainly I totally agree with you. My word for this year was visibility, and starting the podcast was part of that. So I totally hear you on that. I always say I'm never the life and soul of the party, but I like to be at the party. I'm not, because I've been quite reclusive, as a lot of people have been throughout, the last several months. And actually, it's not my natural state. Although I say I'm not a social butterfly or anything like that. I'm quite a social introvert, in fact. I learned that about myself. But I still want to be around people, and I think we need that. And to show up, to actually get out and do things when you've been cooped up in the house. It's so much easier just when it's rainy and it's cold and you just think, I can't be bothered, to actually do it, because it does completely raise your energy. And then you come back, and even the same day or the next day, it's totally lifted you. So it harks to some of the things you said earlier. So, yeah.
And also acknowledging my worth.
Yeah.
I think that's quite a big one, especially, that's quite British as well, I guess. Looking at what you bring to the table, and not and charging, for example, accordingly, rather than charging what you think people can afford.
Yeah.
And saying, how much would you pay me? Because there's a service industry people do ask quite a lot for, can I have a discount? Can I do this? Can I do that? And discounts are fine because if you know people are struggling, but you know that you can impact them, you willingly charge them less. But I think there's also charging was quite difficult for me because it's quite spiritual and it's working with the energetic levels and things like that, which feels natural to me. The talk of money was quite difficult for me. It still is. I can't even get my words out, can you? I'm like, but yeah, stepping up and saying, actually, I do bring something to the table. I am worthy of X, Y, Z. And that was a game changer for me as well. First time I took the price, I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. No.
Well, I think sometimes you have to start with a price that you're comfortable with and kind of then go a little bit more. A bit like when you're buying a house. Get the mortgage that feels comfortable and then stretch yourself a bit more. But it's also, I mean, I talk a lot in my consulting and coaching work, mentoring. I tend to call it mentoring rather than coaching, but similar, about pricing strategies. So that's a really big part of it, because I don't think we're sort of charging what we're worth. And a lot of it in the service industries, as you say, is a lot about what other people charge. And then you become a commodity. And I talk a lot about moving yourself out of that commodity. And again, it goes to some of the points you raised before about finding out what you're all about, what makes you unique, so that you can charge what you're worth. Because what you do is very specific, and you help a very specific person.
Yeah.
If you want to get to the mechanics and the metrics, which I often come back to, it's about value for money and putting some kind of figure on what it's worth. So the quantitative and the qualitative.
The value is in the result, not in the hour, isn't it?
But the charge, the fee is a quantitative amount, it's a figure, but the result is often a qualitative, and people find it quite hard to kind of marry the two together. And I think that's something that is definitely one of the areas I work with people on. So I'm sure that will come up for people in your conversations as well.
Yes.
So one of the punch questions that I ask all my expert guests, or I'm planning to, and it maybe follows from what you've just highlighted, but if you had a superpower that you could use to create leverage in your business, what would you choose?
Oh my goodness. What would I choose? What would my superpower be to leverage my business? Maybe teleportation.
Okay. That's a big one.
Big word.
Think big. Why not think big?
Yeah, that would give me the ability to be able to physically get to people quickly. And instead of having the travel times, or maybe, if I had to fly somewhere and then fly back and that kind of stuff, I could just dot around all over the world, do 5 people in different countries all over in one day. That would be so cool.
It would be really cool, because when we talk so much about, we can just put everything online now. And I think definitely there's been a disruption in how people are doing face-to-face interactions. So it is actually a really good superpower to bring back, because we're in danger potentially of losing some of that face-to-face.
Yeah, no, face-to-face is so important.
Absolutely it is. Yeah. I mean, obviously I'm a lot about digital, and it's definitely not all about putting everything online. And so
online's great.
In consulting and coaching, it's a very human interaction.
Yeah, I mean, online is great, and you can work with people all over the world, but I don't think you can beat being with somebody. The connection and the energy that you have together, and the body language as well. I love being with people.
I think back to what you said right at the very beginning of this interview about when you were in the kitchen feeling that virtual hug or that invisible hug. And I think we need to tap more into that sense of feeling that the universe kind of coming back to us, and so the reassurance, if you like, that it's going to be okay.
It is going to be okay.
Yeah, definitely.
I can't wait to hug everybody again.
That is something I definitely. I'm a hugger. Yeah. Look, hey Tara, this was super fun, and I've loved exploring these questions with you. And hopefully, there's some starting points for unraveling your buckets of spaghetti, as we said.
Yes, just throw it all out, start again.
Thank you so much. Is there any parting wisdom that you want to leave our listeners with?
I would say, always listen to yourself. We spend too much time listening to what other people expect of us or think we should be doing. Just get rid of that. Just listen to what's true to you, and your abundance of happiness, joy, love, wealth, health will come to you. That's
lovely. That's such an important reminder, because we're so busy trying to control everything, aren't we, as well? We don't stop to listen to our inner wisdom, if you like. So hey, thanks so much for joining me, Tara. And there's some really helpful insights. I think we don't spend enough time thinking some of these things through and allowing ourselves just sort of be in that very personal space. So thanks for sharing.
It's been great.
Yeah, it's great. Where are some of the best places people can go and check you out or get in contact?
My website, which is tarachatzakis.com. I'm also on Facebook, Tara Chatzakis Coaching.
Brilliant. I'll definitely put some of those links into the show notes. And I know that you've got some wonderful freebies for people, as we mentioned, that will help people get started really on this road, or dive into some coaching with you. That's brilliant. So thanks a lot. Have yourself a fantastic rest of the day. I'm going away from this feeling really happy. Thanks.
Good. I'm glad. My work is done.
Cheers.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Leverage Business Podcast. Want to create leverage in your business? Did this episode provide some insights and ideas to be thinking through? If so, subscribe so you get alerts when the next one's released. If you want to learn more or would like help and support with building a leveraged business that achieves true freedom for you, then head over to jallison.com/podcast to find all the resources and links that go with this show on my website, and to join our iSuccess community. And if you're enjoying our content, it would be great if you could pop into Apple Podcasts or the app you listen from and leave me a rating and review. Everyone makes a difference to improving our rankings. So thank you if you've done that already. I appreciate you. So hey, that's it. Thank you for listening. I hope you've loved this episode and have some great takeaways to be thinking through. I wish you a pleasant, productive and profitable week, and I'll see you again next time for another episode of the Leverage Business Podcast.